Your bank account is a fresh crime scene where the blood hasn't dried. In 5 years, your purchasing power didn't just stumble, it was shoved off a dark ledge. Look at the receipts. The cost of existence has spiked 40%, while your wage growth is flatlining on a gurney in a hospital you can no longer afford. You aren't budgeting, you're performing a grim autopsy on a dead dream, trying to find where the marrow of your hard work vanished into the digital overlord's pockets. By 2030, you won't own the car in your driveway or the software in your brain, because the title deeds to your life have been sold as revenue. This isn't a recession. It's a controlled demolition of the middle class, designed to turn every citizen into high-yield cattle crop for the asset-holding elite who own the gate. They call it the gig economy, but I see the fingerprints of a neo-feudalist ghost haunting every transaction where you trade your limited time for devaluing fiat tokens. Look closely at the $2,000 you pay for a studio that smells like wet drywall. That's not rent, it's a monthly ransom note for your basic survival. You're working 40 hours a week just to keep the lights on for a landlord who hasn't stepped foot on this property since the turn of the century. The evidence is buried in the fine print of the user agreement you clicked, except on without realizing you were signing away your right to ever own land. We're witnessing the murder of the one-time purchase, a slow assassination where every tool, song, and shelter is held behind a monthly paywall you can simply never scale. The motive is clear. A customer who owns nothing is a customer who can never stop paying, creating a perpetual motion machine of extraction that never truly sleeps. Check your digital wallet and tell me what's actually yours. Or are you just renting the permission to exist from a server farm in some tax haven desert? The victim is you, sitting with a college degree that's a $60,000 receipt for a job market that replaced your entry-level rung with a cold, black box algorithm. Every time the Fed prints another trillion, they're diluting the sweat of your brow, ensuring the juice you squeezed yesterday won't fill even half a glass tomorrow. You feel that tightening in your chest when you look at the grocery bill. That's the Cantillon Effect, where the elite drink wine while you choke on the dregs. They tell you happiness is having no baggage, but in this city, no baggage just means you've got nothing left to trade when the collectors come at midnight. The crime wasn't committed by a man in a mask, but by suits using spreadsheets to calculate exactly how much blood they can draw without killing the host. You're trapped in a cycle where your car updates into a subscription, and your fridge won't dispense ice unless you've paid the premium cooling tier this month. This is the new poverty. You have all the gadgets of a king but the equity of a serf, living in a gilded cage built with your own debt. I've followed the paper trail to the top, and it leads to a system that decided your independence was a direct threat to their next quarterly earnings report. The fingerprints are on the M2 money supply, a digital trail of ink bloating the system until your savings are ghosts haunting an empty vault. Every new dollar birthed in a boardroom acts as a silent thief, diluting the sweat and time you've already spent. This is the Cantillon Effect in its purest form. Those standing nearest to the printing press drink the finest wine, while inflation ripples outward to drown the rest. By the time that capital reaches your neighborhood, prices have already skyrocketed for their greed. Forensic analysis of your fiat currency reveals a disappearing act turning your store of value into a melting ice cube in a summer heat wave. You're forced to run a perpetual marathon just to stay in the same place while the ground is systematically eroded. We've tracked the housing market DNA to the algorithmic buys of private equity giants who treat your shelter like a high-frequency trading commodity. They aren't looking to provide homes. They're creating a captive audience of permanent high-yield renters who can never truly escape. The crime scene extends into your digital life, where planned obsolescence has been re-engineered into a subscription requirement for your own hardware. Your tools no longer belong to you. They're merely borrowed from a cloud-based landlord who can flip the switch at any moment. Look at the user agreement. It's a surrender document that replaces your property rights with a limited license that can be revoked for any reason. You are paying for the privilege of being a data point in their ecosystem, while they extract every ounce of equity. The mechanism of the heist is compound interest turned against the consumer, creating a debt cycle where the interest alone consumes your monthly labor. You aren't working for a future. You're working to service the ghosts of purchases you made years ago, trapped in a loop. I've followed the wires back to the asset managers who realize that ownership is a liability for the elite, as a self-sufficient populace is harder to control. By turning every product into a recurring service, they ensure a perpetual stream of rent flows upward forever. The credit score is the digital shackle of this era, a social financial metric measuring how well you play their game of borrowing and repayment. If you don't take on their debt, you're effectively locked out of the legitimate economy they've constructed for total control. Forensic accounting shows that your cost of living isn't rising by accident. It's optimized by AI models calculating exactly how much you can bleed before you break. Every cent of your discretionary income is a target for a new subscription tier, keeping your savings at zero. The fingerprints of the Great Reset are visible in the shifting marketing that frames having nothing as a new form of freedom. It's the ultimate gaslighting campaign, designed to make you feel enlightened for losing the very assets that would have provided true independence. We found the smoking gun in the SaaS revolution, where companies stopped selling things and started selling access to those things indefinitely. This shift turned the consumer product relationship into a feudal one, where you are the serf and the software developer is the lord. The 2026 inflation is the final forensic proof of a system that has run out of new markets and has turned to cannibalizing its own. They are devaluing the currency, effectively mortgaging your children's futures to keep the current terminal bubble from popping before the election. Observe the shrinkflation in the grocery aisles. It's the physical manifestation of a currency that is losing its integrity in real time, right before your eyes. You're paying more for less, a mathematical impossibility that only makes sense when you realize the medium of exchange is being hollowed out. Modern banking DNA is built on fractional reserve logic, a house of cards where your own deposits fund the very entities that outbid you. Your savings are being weaponized against you, providing the liquidity for corporations to buy up the assets you were saving to purchase. The forensic report on your paycheck reveals that your effective tax rate is nearly double the official claim once you factor in the inflation tax. It's a silent, unvoted upon levy that ensures the wealth gap stays wide enough to prevent any real social mobility or escape. They've weaponized convenience as the ultimate distraction, making it so easy to click and subscribe that you don't notice the slow drain on your autonomy. By the time you realize you're paying for 15 different services, you've lost the ability to function without their digital permission. Financial forensics show a world where equity has become a dirty word for the masses, reserved only for the institutions that provide the platforms. You are the product being sold to advertisers and the pear being milked by the platform, leaving you with absolutely nothing. I've traced the money trail to central bank digital currencies, the ultimate forensic tool for monitoring and controlling every single cent you spend. Once the programmable money is in place, they can literally expire your subscription to life if you don't spend your tokens exactly as demanded. The forensic conclusion is undeniable. The system isn't broken, it's functioning exactly as intended to harvest your time and energy into their private vaults. Every transaction is a fingerprint, every debt is a DNA sample, and the picture they paint shows you are just a permanent guest. The jury is in, and the verdict is written in the red ink of your balance sheet. You are being evicted from the concept of ownership itself. This isn't a theory. It's a cold, hard judgment handed down by a system that views your financial independence as a threat to its bottom line. The verdict is that the 2026 economy is a closed circuit, a high-tech labyrinth where every exit leads back to a Pay Now button or a data mining consent form. You've been sentenced to a life of recurring payments, a digital treadmill where the faster you run, the more power you generate for them. You want to appeal. The Court of Public Markets doesn't recognize your standing, as they've already priced your future labor into their 10-year growth projections and stock valuations. You are a line item on a ledger, a predictable stream of average revenue per user in a world of humans as services. But here's the street-smart truth. If the game is rigged, you stop playing their version of it and start building a shadow economy of your own. You have to realize that fiat isn't just a currency, it's a belief system, and you're allowed to stop believing in a currency that hates you. The first move is to stop being a user and start being an owner, even if you have to start with the smallest piece of dirt or the most basic of hard assets. If it doesn't have a serial number they can remote kill or a cloud dependency, it's one of the few real things left in this city. Reject the least-alive mentality that they've spent billions of dollars marketing to your insecurities and your desire for the latest, shiny digital dopamine hit. Buy the older car with cash, learn to repair the tools you already have, and treat every subscription as a leak in your fortress that must be plugged. You need to hard asset your life, moving your devaluing tokens into things that the printing press cannot dilute, like skills, physical tools, and community-based trade. In a world of digital ghosts, the person who can actually fix a pipe or grow a tomato becomes the new elite of the underground. The forensics showed the credit score is a trap, So minimize your surface area to their debt traps and stop financing a lifestyle that only serves to make you a more compliant servant. Cash is a weapon of anonymity. Use it to break the digital breadcrumbs that allow them to optimize your exploitation through your spending habits. Look for the gaps in their surveillance capitalism, the places where peer-to-peer exchange still breathes, and where the subscription hasn't yet reached its cold, grasping fingers. Build a network of people who trade value for value, cutting out the institutional middleman who takes a 30% cut of every human interaction. You must become economically unhackable, diversifying your survival so that no single terms of service update can leave you homeless, hungry, or disconnected from your own life. This means learning the old world math of savings and the new world tech of decentralized finance to bridge the gap between their trap and your freedom. The verdict isn't a death sentence if you use it as a wake-up call to stop sleepwalking through the standard life path that was designed for a 1950s world that no longer exists. The rules have changed, and the social contract has been shredded by the very people who were supposed to protect the integrity of the market. Stop waiting for a crash to reset the prices, because the gatekeepers will just use the chaos to buy more of your world with the money they print to save us. You have to buy in now at any level to any asset that isn't a service, because the floor is being raised every time you blink. Educate yourself on the silent theft of inflation so you can spot the lies in the evening news before they drain your checking account for the third time this month. Knowledge is the only forensic tool they can't confiscate, and understanding the Cantillon Effect is like having the blueprints to the bank they're robbing. Treat your attention as your most valuable hard currency, because the subscription model is designed to keep you distracted and scrolling while they harvest your actual wealth. Every hour you spend learning a real-world skill is an hour you've stolen back from the attention economy that wants you broke and passive. The judgment is clear. The middle class is being off-ramped into a permanent underclass of renters, and the only way out is to build your own on-ramp through radical self-reliance. This isn't doomsday prepping, it's economic sanity in a world that has gone clinically insane for the sake of a quarterly dividend. Recognize that privacy is an asset that will soon be more expensive than gold, as the CBDCs move to make every off-book transaction a potential system error or a crime. Protect your financial data like it's the last remaining evidence of your humanity, because in their eyes, that's exactly what it is. Wake up and realize that the American dream was sold to a private equity firm years ago, and they've rebranded it as the Great Reset, where you own nothing and thrive. Don't fall for the marketing. Thriving without ownership is just a fancy way of saying you're a well-fed house pet in a kennel they own. Your survival strategy must be agile, moving between the cracks of their regulations and finding the gray markets, where true value is still recognized and property rights still mean something. Adapt or be absorbed. Those are the only two options left on the table in the year 2026 for the younger generation. Take the forensic evidence I've given you and use it to deconstruct the subscription trap before it closes for good on the year 2030, leaving you a ghost in your own home. The heist is ongoing, but the exit door is still cracked open if you're willing to walk away from the convenience they use as bait. This case is closed, but your investigation is just beginning. Take your life back, one canceled subscription and one hard asset at a time before the ink on your user license dries. The city is rigged, the game is crooked, but the detective who knows the rules is the only one who can actually break them and survive.